Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, this case is incredible. If the races were reversed here, I think the media coverage would be dramatically different. And the manner in which Carmelo Anthony's family is playing the victim, raising money, holding press conferences, I mean, that's quite incredible as well.
It really is. I mean, it's so brazen, this whole flipping of victimhood, and the culture has just turned into this victimhood Olympics, and now you're seeing it in its worst possible place when you've got this just senseless, depraved, heinous act, murder, that was conducted, and even that's being wrapped up along racial lines, which has nothing to do with it. The spokesperson, Dominic Alexander, that they hired, he himself has a criminal record. He's a convicted felon from 2011. He's out there with some nerve saying the things that he said, kicking out the father, and then the mother wrapping all of that up. Again, no awareness at all or even acknowledgement of what the actual victim's family is going through. It's beyond me. I thought most things wouldn't shock me anymore, but this one shocks me too. It
really just shows a sickness that exists in America right now with those who are just race obsessed and they want to look at this through a racial filter, and they just cannot cope with the fact that the victim here happened to be white, the aggressor happened to be black. That shouldn't be the issue. It should be the fact there is a teenage boy who's dead, who died in his twin brother's arms, and he's forgotten whilst the victim is being lionised and hundreds of thousands of dollars being raised for him. Now to more leftist lawlessness, and one of Tim Walz's state employees stands accused of causing around $20,000 in damage, vandalising Teslas. Here he is, filmed, looks like he's keying cars there. There is ample footage of these alleged incidents. Dylan Brian Adams is a fiscal policy analyst, a Minnesota state employee. He's been arrested, Kosha, and this comes just a few weeks after we heard Tim Walz, the failed vice presidential candidate, mocking Tesla's share price falling, attacking Elon Musk repeatedly. And to see these acts across the country, people going around vandalising cars belonging to individuals, I'm not advocating for attacking dealerships, but when you're actually attacking the personal property of someone, I mean, really, again, we talked about a sickness that exists. This is another example of it.
It is another example, and I think the meta point is that the consequences are just too soft and too weak in culture in general. Decriminalization, selective outrage, letting certain people off the hook based on where they fall. In this case, this policy analyst did get arrested, as you mentioned, so there are some consequences which are necessary to have deterrence. But unless and until we see that much more strongly, unfortunately, I think these acts are only going to continue because people, either they can skirt some sort of punishment, or even further, they're actually glorified by a portion of the left, and so they want to do these kinds of things.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of Democrat politicians refusing to disavow this sort of violence, and the left has become increasingly activist and violent in its behaviour. We saw that throughout the BLM riots, around $2 billion worth of damage, very few consequences and arrests. You compare that to, say, what happened on January 6th and people being in solitary confinement for months. How do you see this issue and how it separates America? Because when people talk about two Americas, I think this is really central to that issue, where people have lost faith in those institutions. They've lost faith in the fact that they're going to have equal justice under the law.
I know, it really does show that to America, that divorce symbolically that's happening gets much more hitting you in your home, on the streets, when it comes down to crime and the actual criminal justice system being fair or not. And when we look at all these cases, whether it's Kyle Rittenhouse or Daniel Penny and all of those, you could see how, had they been tried somewhere else, Kyle Rittenhouse certainly, in a different jury, in a different state, the outcome would have been different. Daniel Penny squeaked by through a hair's breadth. That is very, very scary to a lot of people, that if something, God forbid, were to happen and you find yourself in that situation, if you live in the wrong jury pool, you can't trust the system anymore.
Now, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has said that she's going to be treating these cases like domestic terrorism. They're politically motivated acts of violence, so they fit the definition of terrorism. Will that dissuade some of these people from acting out? Because I think part of the reason why we've seen this increase in violence is because they watch those BLM riots, they watch those Antifa riots, and really not much happened to those who were guilty of causing enormous damage.
Yeah, and that's the learned behavior. I do think if you make one or two examples of people within the law, it often, and history shows us, it will serve as a deterrent. Whether you look at illegal immigration, different issue, but that sending plane loads of people over to El Salvador is a deterrent for people who don't want to be caught in the net of this administration. And then domestically, it's a bit trickier in terms of which statutes can apply and how far you can push them. But to the extent of the law, the fullest extent of the law, if you prosecute 1, 2, 3 of these folks in the harshest terms that are legally available to you, I do think it'll serve as a deterrent.
I think that's part of the reason we're seeing the illegal immigration crisis be resolved, because why would you come across if you're going to be sent back, if you're going to be locked up, and if you're a criminal, you could be sent to a mega prison in El Salvador.